Calgary versus Vancouver, the age-old debate, which is the better city to live in? So maybe you're looking to relocate from Calgary to Vancouver or vice versa, or you're in another province looking to migrate over to one of these cities, or you're even immigrating to Canada and you want to know which city is better. Okay, so if that is you, this is the exact video for you. So for me, I've lived in Calgary all of my life. I absolutely love it there and it'll forever be home for me, but I've recently relocated to Vancouver and I've been loving it so far. Right now, I'm not going to have the complete inside scoop on everything within the city, but as someone who has visited here quite frequently, I know the city pretty well and have a good handle on some of the pros and cons of both cities. And I'll share my opinions on both and which one I think is the better city. So stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to share my opinion and my answer on which one I think is the best option. It might spark up a little bit of debate and you're not going to want to miss that. If it's your first time here, my name is Mason Stepanek and I create content just like this around Canadian real estate. I help people generate wealth through real estate. And if you get any value from these videos, all that I ask is that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I post 2 to 3 times every single week, and it's really to just help you make the most informed decisions on growing wealth within the world of real estate. And every single day, I have tons of people reaching out to me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and through this YouTube channel. And if you want to be one of them, I'm going to leave my contact information in the description. You can reach out to me anytime. I love chatting with all of you. And you can also schedule a time in my calendar through the Calendly link below. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. All right, so you're deciding what city you want to move to and you're stuck between Calgary or Vancouver. Quite surprisingly, there are a ton of people in this exact same situation. And just to confirm this, right before I moved to Vancouver, I actually helped a client relocate from Vancouver to Calgary, right? So there are a lot of people moving from city to city. And if this is you, you might fall into this specific situation, or maybe you're in a variable rate mortgage and you're up for renewal and you need to move from a more expensive area to a less expensive area, or you're in one of the other Canadian provinces and you're eyeing up either BC or Alberta. And it's kind of crazy right now because the interprovincial migration numbers were recently released and almost every single province lost population except for Alberta. What's absolutely bananas is Alberta was ranked the fastest growing population per capita across the entire world. So there are a ton of people that are moving to Alberta, and more specifically Calgary. So if this sounds like you, and again, stick around, you're going to get a ton of information for this video. I'm going to break everything down for you so you can make the most educated decision. So with that, let's do a quick introduction on both Calgary and Vancouver. All right, starting off with Calgary. Calgary is Alberta's largest city in terms of population and size, with a population of about 1.6 million people at the time of this recording. Calgary provides a ton of amenities and is located close to the mountains and has a relatively low cost of living in comparison to other Canadian cities. And it is located in the south half of the province on the convergence of the Bow and Elbow River and is regularly ranked atop some of the most livable cities in the entire world. And with Vancouver, Vancouver is located on the west coast in British Columbia and has an inner city population of about 600,000. And then the metro Vancouver area has a population of about 2.5 million people. And because it's located in the west coast and in between all the mountains in the Fraser Valley, it has a stunning geography with a pretty mild climate. And Vancouver is also consistently ranked atop some of the most livable cities to live in the world, but also is some of the most expensive cities to live in as well. All right, so now let's talk about the climate because these cities have two completely different weather patterns, okay? So with Calgary, it is a relatively dry climate with very variable weather patterns. You get the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So in the summer, you can experience averages of 20 to 25 degrees, with it as going as high as 35 some days, albeit it's not really that frequent. And in the winter, you get averages of about -10 to 10 degrees, with it going as low as -30 and -35. And in those situations, you do have to stay inside because you start to get frozen within minutes. And it's pretty crazy. What's really, really cool with Calgary is you get the Chinooks that come off the mountains a couple times throughout the winter. So it's essentially a bunch of warm air that comes off the mountains and into the Calgary area, and you experience a lot of warm weather. And it's warm enough for restaurants and bars to open up their patios, and it's really, really cool to see. Calgary is also one of the sunniest cities in the entire country. So even when in the winter you get your cold snaps, you'll still get to see the sun, and it ultimately leads to a better mood, at least in my experience. Whereas with Vancouver, because Vancouver is situated on the coast and in close proximity to the ocean, although it may look warmer on the thermometer, it's actually going to feel a lot colder due to the humidity. And again, because of this coastal location, Vancouver experiences a lot of precipitation, which means more cloudy weather and overcast weather. And throughout the winter, you can experience snaps of 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes where it's completely cloudy and rainy and you don't even see the sun, which has an effect on a lot of people's mental health. And although I haven't seen it myself personally because I moved here to Vancouver right as we were transitioning into summer, and the weather has actually been quite phenomenal since I've gotten here. I know people personally that have relocated from Vancouver to Calgary because they couldn't personally deal with all of the cloudy weather throughout the winter. So if you don't like rain and you don't like cloudy, overcast weather for extended periods of time, definitely something that you're going to want to consider if you're deciding to make the move between Calgary and Vancouver. All right, so now let's talk about the landscape of both of these cities. And starting with Calgary, Calgary is an interior city, which means located on the inside of the country. It has high accessibility to nature and is just about an hour or two drive away from the Rocky Mountains and hiking trails in Kananaskis, as well as Banff and some of the major ski resorts like Banff Sunshine and Lake Louise, to name a few. You'll also find that a lot of the taller buildings are kind of situated closer to the downtown core in the center of the city. This is where a lot of the major corporations tend to operate. Calgary also has pretty well-planned infrastructure that has lower traffic wait times in comparison to other major cities across Canada, and they have recently started adopting a lot more bike lanes across the city, making it more accessible for bikes. And there are some major upgrades on the train system that are planned in the upcoming years. And within the city, there is also a certain percentage of green spaces that developers are required to incorporate into the neighborhood. So you do get a lot of green spaces. And you also get access to a lot of major parks like the Nose Hill Park in the north half of Calgary, and then the Fish Creek Park and the Glenmore Reservoir located in the south half of Calgary as well. And so with Vancouver is a port city, and it is located close to the Whistler and Blackcomb Mountains, and it's located in the midst of the Fraser Valley. And within the city, you're going to get access to different parks and beaches like Stanley Park, Kitsilano Beach, and English Bay, just to name a few. Vancouver also has a lot of bike paths, and one of my favorites is the bike path along the seawall. You're able to take the bike all the way around downtown Vancouver and Stanley Park, and personally for me, it's my favorite way to experience Vancouver. And due to the population density, you're not only going to see all of the tall skyscrapers located in downtown Vancouver, but also among the sprawl for the rest of the municipalities across the Metro Vancouver area. And I remember when I was moving from Calgary to Vancouver just over a month ago, I was driving in on Highway 1, and it was an awesome view to see. Got to see all the tall skyscrapers in Surrey and in Langley, and off in the distance, you saw the skyscrapers in Vancouver as well. So again, that's kind of like the landscapes of both cities. They are both different in that regard, but both beautiful cities nonetheless. All right, so now let's talk about the jobs and industries in both cities. Because with Calgary is really known for being an oil city and an entrepreneurial hub, and has the highest company headquarters in the city per capita in comparison to the rest of the country. And the main sector is energy, but there has recently been a new surge of technology companies that have been opening up shop in the city due to the cheaper commercial real estate and leasing options in comparison to other major markets in Canada. And with Vancouver really has more diverse job opportunities and sectors. The main sectors are import-export because it is a port city, and lumber and the financial industries as well. But when comparing Calgary versus Vancouver, on average, the same occupation, someone working an occupation in Calgary is going to get paid a higher salary than someone working that same role in Vancouver. So if you are looking to get a job in the city, you're likely going to make more in Calgary. So just something to consider. Right now for the real estate and housing between both cities. So with Calgary, it is definitely more affordable with the benchmark price of a home at $605,000 at the time of this recording. And the average rent on a per month basis is $1,897 for a one bed and $2,300 for a two-bedroom apartment. It's also a really hot spot for investors at the moment because of the lower price point. There's a lower barrier of entry and a lower down deposit because of that lower price point. And there's also a higher growth potential with the appreciation of the property due to the immigration and interprovincial migration. And compared to BC and Vancouver, there's also no foreign buyer tax and there's no ban on short-term rentals, which is really, really making it a hot spot for investors right now. I know before I left, I was on the phone with investors almost every day from within Calgary and from Toronto and Vancouver that were looking to park their money in Calgary because of the growth potential, okay? And with Vancouver, it is a bit more expensive with the average benchmark price of a house at $1.2 million at the time of this recording. The average rent on a monthly basis is $2,643 for a one bed and $4,137 for a two bed. So again, it's no secret. You've probably seen it all over. Calgary, without a shadow of a doubt, is more affordable than Vancouver, almost by half. So if your budget is the element in your decision, Calgary is definitely going to be the more affordable option for you. All right, and now for the cost of living across both cities. So in Calgary, in general, it is a way lower cost of living. And there's a lot of factors that play into this, like the lower income tax brackets. There's no provincial sales tax. It ultimately has some of the lowest taxes in the country because of this. And because of the lower house prices, housing is significantly lower, which contributes to the lower cost of living. And because it is a, quote unquote, a oil province, gas prices are typically the cheapest in Alberta in comparison to the rest of the country. And property taxes in the city are relatively low as well. And with groceries in lower end restaurants, we've actually found them to be pretty comparable to Vancouver, but because you're not paying provincial tax additional to the GST, it ultimately ends up being a little bit cheaper. So with Vancouver, it is a significantly higher cost of living. The high housing costs played a huge factor into this. Gas prices are also incredibly expensive in Vancouver. And additional to that, you pay higher tax brackets and there's provincial sales tax and premiums for health benefits. And there's a lot of other taxes and stuff that are incorporated in Vancouver and British Columbia. So when you take all of this into consideration, as well as the salary of someone working in Vancouver for the same role as someone working in Calgary, they are going to be getting paid less. So your expenses are higher, your salaries are lower, which ultimately makes it a higher cost of living in Vancouver opposed to Calgary. So if you're looking for a better, more affordable cost of living, Calgary is definitely going to be your go-to. All right, now for the fun stuff, the food, entertainment, and culture. And I want to emphasize, pound for pound, Calgary and Vancouver, they both have amazing, rich entertainment and culture options. There's tons to do in both cities, but they are a little bit different. So at Calgary is really known for its Western heritage and for its AAA Alberta beef. And there's a lot of really, really good steakhouses within the city, like Caesar Steakhouse, like Modern Steak and Hyde's, just to name a few. It's also become quite the hub for fine dining options, and there's been a lot of upper scale restaurants that have been coming up in recent years. And if that's not really your thing, there's a ton of different bars and pubs and restaurants along 17th Avenue and on Stephen Ave and spread out throughout the downtown core. And what's also really, really underrated is the coffee culture in Calgary. And this is also something that's really started to come up over the last few years with a lot of great shops like Rosso and Phil and Sebastian, Good Earth and DeVille opening up throughout the city. And Calgary also hosts the Calgary Stampede every single year, which it's a huge draw for people all over the world to come into the city and attend. And what the Calgary Stampede is, it's a 10-day festival and carnival and rodeo, and really the city shuts down for 10 days, especially if you're in corporate. It's really like the Wild West, and it's a great time if you've never been. And there's lots of different events and concerts going on, and it really attracts some of the biggest names in music throughout that 10 days. So if you haven't gone yet, very, very highly recommend. Okay, so now with Vancouver has a really strong emphasis on its Asian cuisine, right? And with it being a coastal city, there are also a lot of great seafood and sushi options as well, if that's your thing. And because of the population and the temperate weather, Vancouver has some great concerts and festivals that happen throughout the year. I've also found that a lot of artists that go on some of these major tours, because they have better venues and a higher population, they come to Vancouver, whereas with Calgary, because the main venue is incredibly outdated and the population is a lot less, Calgary often gets missed on some of these major tours. And Vancouver does also have a lot of great nightlife options as well. There's a lot to do when it comes to the nightlife. There's a lot of different bars and pubs and restaurants similar to Calgary. So in summary, both cities have a very rich culture with lots of great culinary options and restaurants and bars. And it's really your oyster to come and explore and really involve yourself in the culture, okay? So both are great options if you are looking to move to one or the other. All right, guys, with all of that said, we are now down to the final question and down to the wire. Which is the better city to live in, Calgary or Vancouver? Now, again, this is going to be relative to everyone's situation and lifestyle. But for me personally, Calgary, without a doubt, is the better city to live in. Calgary wins in almost every single category, including quality of life. Everything is cheaper and it costs less to live there. You end up getting paid more, taxed less. Housing is cheaper, rent is cheaper, gas is cheaper, and the quality of life is ultimately better, right? Yeah, like the winters do get cold at times, but it really makes for a great and long snowboarding and ski season if that's your thing. And you also get the Chinooks over the course of the winter, so you do get some warm snaps, which makes it a lot more palatable. And as you start to live there over the course of a few years, you really get used to it as a resident, right? And for me, I've always said this, Calgary in the summer, you just can't beat it. There is no better place to be than Calgary in the summer. And with that, Vancouver is still an amazing city, and I want to emphasize that enough, right? If you come in and you take the time to enjoy everything that Vancouver has to offer, all the amenities, all the outdoor activities, the beaches, the ocean, it is truly a fantastic city to live in and a place to be, honestly. You have to bring your wallet, and you have to have the budget to allow you to do those things. So definitely something to consider. But that is the video, and everybody, if you like the video, you got some value from it, and you want to continue seeing more content just like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you live in Calgary or Vancouver before, you've been to both of these cities, I'd love to hear what are some of your favorite spots and parts of both of these cities in the comment section below. It'll also help the other people viewing it to learn more about both of the cities and not only that, if you are thinking of moving to Calgary or Vancouver, I would love to hear from you. I got a lot of resources in both cities and would be able to help you out. So I will leave my contact information below. You are more than welcome to reach out to me. I have people reaching out to me every single day. I would love to hear from you. You can also schedule the time through the Calendly link and book a call directly with me. Okay, so again, thanks again, everybody. My name is Mason Stepanek, and we will see you on the next video.